Before we get started, we wanted to thank Liberty Mutual Surety for sponsoring this episode of Let's Get Surety. Liberty Mutual Surety provides contract and commercial bonds for all size companies and contractors around the world. Liberty Mutual is here for you today, tomorrow, together. For more information on Liberty Mutual's breadth of surety products and solutions, visit www.libertymutualsurety.com. Now on to our show.
You're listening to Let's Get Surety. Let me hear your bonding talk with Kat Shamapande.
Hey everyone, it's Kat Shamapande. Welcome to this episode of Let's Get Surety. I've got with me my co-host, Mark McCallum. Hey Mark, thanks for being on.
Hi Kat, I'm very excited about today's discussion.
I know you are, because RiskStream is near and dear to your heart. We're going to be talking about RiskStream, what they are and what they're doing. To talk about the RiskStream Collaborative today, we've got Greg Davenport, Senior VP E-Business, Agile Development, Global Risks at Liberty Mutual. Thanks for being on again, Greg.
Thanks for inviting me again.
We are glad to have you back. And you can always check out the last episode Greg recorded with us. We'll include a link to that in the description. You can get some more information from him there as well. We also have on Sandy Hampel, Director of Products at the Institute's RiskStream Collaborative.
Hi, Kat.
Hey, thanks so much for being on, Sandy. I don't know who better we could have to talk about RiskStream Collaborative with us than you.
Thank you for inviting me.
We're glad to have you. So I think the best place to start, Sandy, could you just tell us a little bit about the RiskStream Collaborative and what it is?
Absolutely. RiskStream Collaborative is a non-for-profit organization. Our parent company is the Institutes, who has been around in the industry for over 100 years, providing professional development to the insurance industry. At the time RiskStream was formed, we were aiming to provide solutions, efficiencies, and greater customer experience to the industry. And with the network of our members and the network that the institutes had at the board, we felt that with this new technology, how can we better serve the industry leveraging blockchain technology? And that is a network-based technology. So we felt that with that technology and the network that the institutes brought, RiskStream was formed out of those two concepts and really to aim to bring greater efficiencies to the industry.
Well, and I know before we go much further, I know that blockchain is getting to be more of a common term, but we might have listeners who don't know what that means. What do you mean by blockchain?
So blockchain is a technology that provides an assurance that the information that's posted out on the network cannot be altered, so it addresses any concerns related to fraud within the insurance industry. And in addition, the data can be shared among multiple parties. So it's a multi-party network of sharing and exchanging data and documents. And what's interesting about it is that it is a decentralized technology, so that in the past, in order to have information exchanged among multiple parties, you needed a centralized database. And so you needed that level of trust for who is that party that's going to maintain and own that data. With blockchain, it enables the ability that all parties who need to have access to the information will have access in a secure manner, and it is decentralized. So a copy that you may have is the same version that I have. So if something is updated or changed, those parties who have access to it are immediately notified.
So it gives everybody the same information at the same time. Keeps everyone on the same page.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, Greg, how did Liberty and yourself get involved with the RiskStream Collaborative?
Well, Kat, Liberty, we've always tried to contribute to the industry in every way we can. And one area that we've particularly focused on has been automation and technology. I personally have been involved with NASBP's Automation and Technology Committee, the SFAA, ICISA over in Europe. And when heard about blockchain, the light went on that, hey, maybe this is our solution to help move the industry from paper to digital bonds. We tried this about 15 years ago, as you recall, Mark, and with a centralized solution, that didn't really work. And when, as Sandy mentioned, we heard about this decentralized solution, thought, let's do it. So we went to the different associations and first got buy-in on an agreement by the various technology committees, the officers of NASBP, for example, that yeah, this is something worth pursuing. And then the next question was, okay, how do we go about it? We had already determined, really as an industry, that we would need to have a like a collaborative. But rather than create one ourselves, there was already RiskStream that existed that many members of NASBP and the Surety and Fidelity Association and the other associations are already members of RiskStream. So we approached RiskStream. They agreed to facilitate this, and here we are today. And they've been a fantastic partner, as has NASBP, has just been terrific to promote this. Have the automation committee and other members participate. NASBP's on the advisory committee, and just it's just been phenomenal, the support that we've had as an industry thanks to your promotion of this and to RiskStream.
So now on blockchain, is it true that blockchain is actually a technology that's been used in the insurance context before, or is this an unprecedented use of it just starting with Surety?
We are the largest non-for-profit consortium who's bringing blockchain technology to the industry. And it's across both P&C and life and annuity. We feel that it's our position as being a non-for-profit provides that neutral setting because, as Greg said, it's important. We need to bring all parties together. The carriers, the sureties, as well as agents, brokers, the technology providers who's going to be integrating and interfacing with these systems. And also, this is our first initiative that's global. So we are working across the globe with all of the other sureties, Canada, the European, and that's why, as Greg mentioned, all of the other associations, they've all provided support. So this is the largest for RiskStream as far as having a global opportunity.
Wow. Craig, maybe tell us a little bit more about maybe some of the quick differences and maybe how Surety is looked at overseas and maybe how it's looked at domestically or in North America.
Well, overseas, Surety is really more, we compete with banks. Bonds are typically only 5 or 10%. They are not mandated by law as they are in the United States. So a lot of differences. But in terms of what we're trying to accomplish by moving bonds from paper to digital, actually, Europe and Latin America and Asia Pacific are all ahead, and Canada. Everyone is ahead of the United States
of the US.
Because they are accepting digital bonds with digital signatures. Of course, they don't have 50 states to generally deal with like we do, and all those unique rules and regulations. But there is a lot to be learned from the other countries, and again, we're trying to bring that knowledge, and that's why we made it a global initiative.
Well, that's great. Well, you had earlier talked about efficiency, Sandy, and part of that is getting everybody on board, as you said. Could you elaborate a little bit more by what you mean by efficiencies? How will blockchain work that will save time, effort, resources in that regard?
Great question. So first of all, the technology is there, and the technology is great, but the technology alone is not going to bring efficiencies. It's a network-based. Okay. So most importantly is to expand the network and ensure that the community, the industry is engaged. So it's very important, folks like yourself and your organization promoting, getting the word out. So expanding our membership to ensure that we've got a very successful network to communicate and exchange data. Secondly, by bringing these efficiencies, it enables real-time, we leverage API technology to be able to interface and exchange data. So we made it very simple for the system of choice who can integrate, being able to streamline the flow of that information so that multiple parties who need to have access to that data can have immediate access. Additionally, the obligee at the end of the day needs to have assurance and acceptance that, that bond is valid. And that's where we are providing that guarantee that the exchange of that data that was posted on the network on blockchain is valid, authenticated, and it provides them with the assurance that who executed that bond, signed that bond, did have authority at that time. Okay. So at the end of the day, we want to ensure that we're bringing the greatest efficiencies to the agents and brokers and the surety community, the sureties, and providing the obligees with the assurance and guarantee that they can trust the information.
Great. Well, trust is a big word.
Yeah.
It's sad to say, and Greg, you can elaborate on this, I'm sure, but there is fraud sometimes in surety, and so a better solution may help address that problem, right? And then trust is a big part of that.
Right, absolutely. And it's interesting that for whatever reason in 2023, still most obligees trust a wet signature more than they trust anything else. That's why we have the paper bonds.
Right.
But what we're proposing is that through this blockchain technology, we can prove to the obligees that this is a greater level of authentication, as you know, with photocopiers and what have you. I mean, and that's where the fraudulent bonds come in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, as part of our solution, we have 4 powers of attorney specifically, a way, as Sandy mentioned, that this solution will validate or verify that the attorney, in fact, was actually authorized by the surety. So that's more trust than what you get on the paper document that, again, could be photocopied and given in a fraudulent means.
So, trust is a big word. It's somewhat of a concept, but are we talking about that this could be almost instantaneous? Is there a way that you'd be able to audit, for example, how the permissions came into being or the authorization?
Yeah, so we have 2 solutions that we plan to propose to obligees. One is to authenticate digital bonds.
Okay.
And that would be instantaneous. So when that bond is first executed by a system, this isn't the mission of the RiskStream application doesn't execute bonds.
Okay.
But the solution providers, or like in our case at Liberty, we have our own proprietary system. We can take that bond that we execute or an agent executes on our behalf. That can be posted then to the blockchain network. They call it minted as an NFT, non-fungible token, that kind of like what you hear about digital art. It's authenticated. This is the one and only. And instantaneously, that comes back to the principal with a not only a seal that proves that it's authenticated, but that seal can be clicked on and taken right to the blockchain network to authenticate that everything ticks and ties. This is the one and only. And that, again, is all instantaneous. So we think the value, Mark, is that then those can be provided at the point of delivery, right? That the obligee knows this is authenticated on the blockchain. And so that's where we really see that. And in terms of the auditing, our approach is to explain ahead of time even to the obligees and all stakeholders, really.
Yeah.
Here's how this works. Here, this is audit trail. This is why you can trust it. So we plan to, for those that are technically inclined, not everybody will be, but, can really show exactly every single piece of data and how it ties and how it's secure and how, to your point, it can be trusted.
That's amazing. It's faster and it's more secure.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want that?
Right, exactly.
Well, and on faster, I mean, you mentioned efficiencies.
Yeah.
We've kind of surveyed the working group, the members that are participating, and the belief is that a paper bond costs 3 times as much as a digital bond. And of course, as you know, it takes time and money to deliver those paper bonds by NASBP members.
Right. Yeah.
We mentioned this in the automation committee meeting recently, and many members, NASBP members, agents, said our shipping cost of bonds, FedEx or whatever, it's triple what you're showing. So I think it's conservative. That it's 3 times as much. And as you mentioned, Kat, you can deliver it instantly and electronically rather than, send it via FedEx or run the bond to somebody and also.
Ticking another box here, saving money.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
It sounds like you're creating an amazing opportunity. I wanted to circle back to something that you said earlier that I find really interesting. It almost sounds like you are meeting people where they are. So you said that this does not envision a bond execution system. Could you tell us more about what you mean by that? Like, what is the significance?
Well, we want to be careful that this doesn't threaten anybody's competition, but actually builds and enhances the value proposition for every stakeholder: surety, agent, broker, solution provider. And so the analogy that I give is we're trying to do for surety bonds and powers of attorney what we've done with stocks and bonds over 50 years ago. And as we all know, today with stocks and bonds, they're all digital, but you can still choose your broker. You can choose the system you want to work with.
Yeah.
It's all behind the scenes. So that's really what we're trying to do with the blockchain. It's behind the scenes. It's an enabler for those that provide the digital bonding solutions. Again, whether it's a third party
Right.
that provides for agents and brokers or for sureties, or those that have proprietary systems. We want it to really be open, and especially, Mark, as you think about globally, I mean, there's no one solution that provides digital bonding in every country of the world. There's a lot of uniqueness. So with these APIs, then those unique solutions are tailored for, different types of bonds or different countries, jurisdictions, can all participate in this and exchange that information, as Sandy said.
So obligee preference, they could figure out what they're comfortable. But you're building the bridge, and I love that word, enabler, to get them where and to find those efficiencies and to imbue a higher degree of trust in the transaction.
And as you mentioned, meeting people where the obligees, that they're the key. And I think we've learned some lessons in the past when we thought, well, we're the sureties, we can dictate how this works. Well, we're trying to bring a solution, but we know that it has to be accepted and really driven by the obligees. And in fact, they are the ones that have been driving digital bonding for various reasons. But this has to be very open. As Sandy mentioned, RiskStream has members. It is membership-based. But for obligees in particular, this has to be open to every one of them, and also at no cost, so that there is that acceptance. We're trying to eliminate any barriers to entry and acceptance. But then, as you mentioned, Mark, an obligee can choose to either systematically authenticate the bonds, or this is the only piece of the solution that will have a user interface. They'll be able to, with a QR code or with a URL to, go to the internet.
Yeah.
They can type in a few pieces of data. They'll then take them to the RiskStream network and again, authenticate that bond.
Great. So you were mentioning open. So I thought maybe it's worth maybe Sandy talking a little bit about the process to date, how that was open and transparent. And then kind of what is the momentum going forward? What is the opportunity for companies and others interested in this?
Great question. So our approach of bringing these ideas to the industry is we have a methodology or a process within RiskStream that starts out with a low resource commitment, no cost. And the first stage is usually a summit. A virtual 1-hour session that is open invite to the entire industry. In this particular one, it was global. And it's really to assess, is the industry interested in pursuing this topic, whatever the topic is, or the idea. The next stage then is if we understand that, there is interest, who are the key parties who need to be a part of this discussion? And make sure we identify those key stakeholders. The next stage is the first phase of the lab. And again, we keep it low resource commitment and low cost, actually no cost at this stage. And it's generally 3 virtual sessions, 3 1-hour sessions to start building out the framework, designing out a framework of what would this use case look like. From there, it advances to a proof of concept stage. And this is where the industry is still open invite to the industry.
Okay.
It does not require membership. However, if you are a member, you get significant discounts participating at this stage. This is where we partnered with a company called Kaleido. They're our technology partner who built out our Canopy platform. They'll work with us to build out the proof of concept. They're very receptive. They've worked with us throughout this journey. And in this phase, the lab phase where the proof of concept is built out, if you're a non-member, then there is fees to participate. It's all cost coverage. It goes right towards building out that proof of concept. From there, the stages stages really advance then to possibly a pilot or production, and then adoption and run.
Do you have a sense now of have you talked about a timeline for what I'll call deliverables to the industry? And what might that look like? And I know there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but do you have a sense of the timing on that?
Yes. So for this conference, for this expo, this was a milestone for us to bring the technology providers who are participating. Okay. We've been working very closely with Bond Pro, Tinaboo, Xenix, and Surety 2000, and made it open to enable them to participate and integrate their systems into Canopy to demonstrate our proof of concept.
Wow.
We reached that milestone. There's still some additional refinement, but we're able to bring it to the industry today to provide demonstrations and really get input, thought, insight. And then from there, we want to engage obligees and start talking through how can we prioritize and engage these system providers as well as the participants in the working group, our advisory committee, and start that approach of reaching out to obligees. And I'll turn it over to Greg to kind of comment on that.
Great. Yeah, please.
Yeah, Sandy, I mean, we're thrilled that we set that target of having the proof of concept proved for in advance of the NASBP annual meeting, and that's been delivered. So as Sandy mentioned, not only do we want to reach out to obligees, but we also need to address a lot of other business issues. The technology is solved. I mean, there's some other, phases in terms of development to get it to production. But I think the real key now is, how do you determine the funding, who pays, what have you. Let's make sure that we address the legal, the compliance issues, those type of things. So our intent is to work on that at the same time as talking to obligees. So we're kind of, branching out to attack all these at the same time with I guess I'll set another milestone of trying to have answers to those for the mid-year meetings that NASBP has in the fall.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then also most like at Liberty, we're already budgeting for 2024. So we've committed to let the stakeholders know, or that's our target, is to try to let the stakeholders know what they can plan for in 2024 in terms of their own IT resource commitment, if they want to prove the concept themselves, etc. But also, I hope we can show here's what to budget in to develop this and to run it as early as 2024.
Right.
Well, certainly from going from an abstract concept to now the ability to show someone how this actually can operate, that's going to be, I think, a huge help in convincing others and bringing
tangible for them to even take internally and have conversations internally to get buy-in and sponsorship and so forth. So, as Greg said, we were just so thrilled that we achieved our goal that we set forth at the beginning of the year.
Well, as you said, Kat, at the very beginning of this conversation, you asked Sandy, what is blockchain? So we've been talking about it in that context. People like, okay, what is it? Well, now, in some ways, it doesn't even matter to the end user that it's blockchain or not.
Right.
What we're able to say is, here's what it means. You get the bond, you click here, it authenticates it. You can trust that. It's on, everybody in the industry has the same record.
Yep.
And you no longer need to take a wet signature. You no longer need notaries. You no longer because this is actually a better, more secure solution. So it's a win-win for all stakeholders.
So we may have gone past it very quickly. So I just want to make sure I heard this correctly. So right now, the way that it's envisioned, I'll call it the bridge or the solution, there's two components. So you might have a wholly digital bond, but for the paper world, how would this facilitate that? That's where we are currently, but
yeah.
you're trying to help them in ways maybe that's not available now.
I'm glad you asked, Mark, because we didn't talk about that yet. So yes, we've been focused on digital bonds, but as you mentioned, the question is, well, what about the 95% of bonds? We estimate there's 5 million bonds executed and issued a year around the globe at least.
Yeah.
What about the 95% on paper? So we came up with a concept of verification.
Okay.
For those, and this applies to digital too, but for the paper bonds, the thing that's in common for all bonds is, unless they're fraudulent, is that they are registered in the surety system of record.
Yes.
Yep. And so that is what this solution will also allow an obligee or any stakeholder to verify that it's registered. So that's not the bond itself, but it's a record of it that, for example, they'll be able to verify that it's on Liberty's system of record. We recognize we have that exposure.
Right.
And so we believe that number one, that will draw more interest in the global solution, invite more stakeholders, more participants, and then particularly as obligees see that, okay, yeah, I can verify a bond that's already been executed. Again, there may be a little bit of a delay. But over here, gosh, if I require digital bonds, I could authenticate those, and I know the minute that it's given to me by the principal that this is authentic. Hey, I want the digital bonds.
Yeah.
So, it's not going to happen overnight, but we're hoping that by providing that solution for paper bonds, it will help us accelerate the movement towards digital.
Right. I mean, that seems like it's an important transitory step. And I imagine that's going to be very important when you talk to owners, obligees who are trying to get there, and they're dealing with their own resource limits and motivations and all that. So what a nice thing to be able to put into the effort.
Well, and it's just been amazing since the last time we talked to you, Greg. Now getting Sandy on with us and seeing how much how far it's come, how much it's changed since you just kicked it off. I want to thank both you guys for being on. Hopefully we can get you on next year to tell us where we are then.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Again, thank you for NASBP's terrific support.
You've been listening to Let's Get Surety, brought to you by the National Association of Surety Bond Producers. For more information about the NASBP and its members, visit nasbp.org.
Before we go, we just wanted to thank Liberty Mutual Surety again for their generous support in supporting this episode of Let's Get Surety. Liberty Mutual Surety provides contract and commercial bonds for all size companies and contractors around the world. Liberty Mutual is here for you today, tomorrow, together. For more information on Liberty Mutual's breadth of surety products and solutions, visit www.libertymutualsurety.com.